Hello and welcome. It is the completion of the 22nd day of December 2019. My name is Derek and welcome to the Money Charts channel, where like always all bets, trades of the like within each his own risk and their own reward. Alrighty. I often don't get asked, why do you always use this 18 average and really nothing more? And since I often don't get asked that, I often don't answer. It really makes it easy, and I don't like to use as many of those things. Now, it's probably the lower reviews that do it, but to me, what do I see here? Well, within it, it's an attempt. It's gotten above the 18 average of highs within the session today. So it's an attempt to move a new direction and trend, revert the trend, whether it be within retracement, X percentage within these highs. And there's really two to talk about, this high and then the one up here. Or whether it's breaking out and making new highs. Of course, getting above this, you're talking about going to this high. Getting above that high, you're talking about going to 20. And getting above that high, new highs. But we'll get to there if and when we get to that point. I could always look at stuff and state, well, within this move, you're like, well, we've been in a downtrend. Definitely when your downtrend is like this, when you get up to it, you at least want to flatten things out. And in here, it didn't do it originally because it continued in a downtrend. Thus, the 18 continued declining as well. But this little move in here neutralized the situation. It was still neutral in here with the bands going flat, but we've seen the weakness that it was shown. It had a leg lower. So as it was breaking below this trend, no surprise, these two red candles looked, and I'm going to say at least, because it really was just that, to what it did, and at least was coming down to where it came from before this previous level of support. So there's the flattening of the band for the two previous day prior to Sunday session and getting out above it now. So it's an attempt. Most likely when I see this, I feel that it's going to have its move higher, which I think would be a little bit higher, which is why I'm saying this, and then either continue going higher or maybe come back either through price or through time and usually meet up again within this 18 average band and then break it, and then you'd have whatever gains thereafter, if, of course, it's going to be a legit move. And I like to say that legit move because this 18 indicates failed moves pretty darn near good on here. Because every single time when I use this and I see the prices get above the 18 highs after it was in a negative downward / sideways consolidation, which exactly this was. Okay, well now I realize it's that attempt to move and it's got to hold that area. And you can see in here that it failed to do that. It was resisting something you want to see it support. Overall, it's still supported in here. But even in that, after supporting here and here, this down day here started several more in a decent percentage. And it's still now within today's session trying to revert that move that took place. Let's take a look at it on a shorter term. And, well, there's the move today. It started at 11 o'clock a.m., getting above the shorter term level resistance near 72, 71.95 area. Then the more recent level at 72. But this entire run was a correctionary move that got up to this resistance level at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, December 18th. And from that point on, how does the market react to a move? And I've said so many times on here, it's going to keep on happening because it just happens over and over and over again. And until it doesn't, it'll continue. It still will. In that, you have a big move, up or down, in this case up. And then it just goes sideways in some sort of level. You establish some sort of resistance. Well, the first hit, the big level, was this. So now as it goes down, you start to talk about retracement from that high you just would have established. And even just a few periods before, the low that would have been established here at 64.5. Just by my eyes, it looked like it came close to a 38.2% retracement, hitting this low in here. And then from there, it established this level of resistance in here. Originally coming up to it from this low move here, which obviously held, tested, piercing above a couple times, and then the piercing above level, which is the 8-hour stay up here, and all of these two or so here. Pretty much got pierced above with this low at this point. But the resistance was tested here, or established here. Almost tested, but not really here. Definitely really tested here. Sort of tried to, but no. Close enough here, piercing below, and then just the clear breakout. And then, as I've stated many times again before, where do we usually go for a first move? Where we came from. That's exactly where it resisted for several periods, several hours. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And then you have a clear break. Again, a fast move. Now I look for this area on any short-term move to be support. This general area here, which should coincide with the 18. But even if it doesn't, if this thing goes way high and then this coming down and it goes below the 18, when the price action does that, well, then you just go to time frames that are a little bit longer, like the 3 hour or whatever, 4 hour, 8 hour, whatever you can get to. And then that would show the 18 at a decent level. But for now, this thing is breaking out. We just remove the drawings on here. And when we see from where it came from even beforehand, now we should realize where we're going to go to. And that is probably at least to this high here at 76.43, which is practically there. Then we got this one and this one as well. But what we'll do is we'll take a look at it on the 3 hour chart. And we'd have this big high in there, but we've already talked about that, looked at that as its key level. We can see how it corrected very nicely within the 18 on this move. And again, just a most, certainly a clear breakout. And yeah, so let's finish it off with very short term. And I'll go with a 4 minute, 5 minute, pretty much the same thing. It's just in the area of, but as it plays on this, there's the 11 o'clock move when it all started. Established a shorter term, and we're talking really short term. We're talking shorter term in the 4 minute, that is, in here. And then you get above it, significant break. You correct that move. How do you react to that move? Well, we reacted this one to an ascending triangle. Correcting nicely within the 18, getting above the previous resistance and having another noticeable leg. Enough for if you have a decent leg higher, that means a good correction, which exactly this is. Should always end, most certainly in this case, will come back to where you came from. So the range-bound market stayed for many periods. We resisted in here, never came back to it until in here. Had the support. So attempt to get higher here, didn't do it. Attempt to get going here, it did do it. And ever since then, the entire run had a lot of support in here, broken up resistance uptrend line. I've talked about this before as well. When you break a resistance uptrend line, you can have phenomenal moves. And this was a nice, quick little move in here that happened on the break of resistance, and it's correcting it so far, so good. And that's the key word, so far. I mean, even in here, we could see it's trying to get above the 18, quickly rejecting it, but still above this 18 lows, which came down to here 4, 7, 8 periods later, correcting it nice and fine. And as I mentioned again, where you're like, okay, if it breaks through the 50, if it breaks through this 4, then I'd probably go to the 15-minute term time frame and then see how it reacts on that one. And in such, I can see, well, first of all, whether even if it's already piercing below it, holding and coming back here to where we came from. If there's going to be a correctionary move, well, 74.52 would most certainly not be a surprise. It's decently above this 18 average band as it plays out. And again, supporting it at the lows is still above this high. So I'd be like, okay, maybe use the hourly time frame, which we started off with to begin with, at least as per the short-term analysis. And in this move in here, we're talking about coming back to where we came from. This high, 74.25. Well, the 18 average of lows on this one is 73.29. And again, even on this, I mentioned it's been so extended, you might want to use the 3 hour. And within this, or 4 hour, we get pretty much the same results. But the whole idea is when you have big moves like this and you realize that it could most certainly retrace well below the lows, and that's a normal solid correction within that trend, then the longer term time frames will help support that. So here's where we came from. So this is most certainly our must hold area right in here. And now that's coinciding here with the 18 average of lows on this turn. And well, that's basically it, this little area here. Now that it's had this move from this low, It's made a statement. It's just like it made a statement here. And originally its must hold would have been like a 61.8%. And now that I'm looking at this, I do want to calculate it. So we have a high at 74.40. So I'm going to take that number. And of course, it's going to calculate it for me within this. But I'm going to divide it by the lowest number on here, which is the low. And the low is 6,435. I want to put it to the root of, well, the numbers that you'll see, and then multiply the low of 64.35. So I put it to the root of 0.382 and these four numbers as well. So the 61.8% number on top represents a 38.2% down correction. And that came in at 7,039. And then we can see this low is 7,000. Rounded up, I'll say. Not rounded off, but rounded up. It rounds up to 7,039. I mean, it's just luck. It's only luck that it pretty much had an exact hit amongst that level. Bitcoin dominance, well, it's going up with the moves over the last 3 hours. And of course, today, just a small little breakout. Nothing too phenomenal compared to this move, but still breaking out nonetheless. On the daily chart, it has above, not starting to look barely convincingly, but a little bit to go for it to be convincingly above this high. Not quite yet. It is congesting and stabilizing ever since it got up to there on December 19th at this little area. So that's something I'd look at. If a market comes up to an area and then pulls back relatively quickly, meaning it didn't stay and hold above, it didn't hardly had any action above that 69.45 number. But in here, it had a lot of action holding above 69 2/3. So getting above here, now we start to talk about these highs, which, well, lately they're the biggest ones that we've had along the way. We got the curve shape formation, the smiley face. So oftentimes when you see this, you got to give a full credential to at least come up and test this resistance high. Let's move on to Theta against Bitcoin next. And at 1,300 Satoshi. And I mean, when these things go, this thing went up from like, well, here we had this first one, but I talk about that a lot. But either way, 1,200 up to 5,000 is a significant move, and has not been able to revert the trend since its highs recorded almost a year ago now, March of, well, for now I'll say this year. Soon I'll be going to be saying last year, and soon will be in less than 2 weeks. Well, starting January 1st, of course. But March was early in this year. So within the decline, continuous decline here. Attempt to flatten out the band in April, not so lucky. An attempt to revert it, having a small or intermediate term uptrend, but it didn't have that much in time, and it most certainly didn't have that high of a rate of volatility gain. Ultimately being a failed breakout. And then we have it doing it again, having this statement day on July 17th. Again, okay amount in time, but not the largest amount, and most certainly a very low amount of rate of ascent. And the rate of ascent, this is higher compared to what a lot of this turned out to be. But another attempted breakout in late August, it failed. And even these small ones in here, but whatever on those. And then we have this one in late October. Obvious noticeable breakout, fails. No fast move. Not as big of one. This one was longer in time, only like 5-6 days, but most certainly lower in volatility gain compared to here. It failed, and oftentimes from failed moves come fast moves, and this would be one of them. However, and this is another one to put it, if it's a big failed move, expect a big fast move. And if it's a small failed move, and this is the case, expect a small fast move. So there's your small failed move, there's your small fast move in the opposite direction, which that turned out to be a failed move, not of that big of magnitude, much decent sized gain. So now we've had this big attempt, much certainly for time. We compare these two to this. This most certainly is a much better play, but still, it's been an okay amount of time. It could be a lot more. And again, we're talking about the gain. Well, this thing came up to a little over 1,500. after it was a little below 1,000. That's a little more than 50% of an increase from the lows down in here. That's just how it goes. And now we have a correctionary move into the 18. Firm move. The price went down 7.2% against that of Bitcoin. So we're coming up to the lows. We're into the area where we know where the must hold area is. I mean, this was resistance on monstrous occasion. So I think it goes deep as 1,100 as where it has to go and hold. I mean, not saying it will go there, but if it does, I'd be like, okay, could this be a failed breakout for a fast move lower? Yeah, maybe. But it also could be a move back down here where it came from, finds this level of support, then has its retracement from this high to this low that it will make, start to come back up and do its retracement things. And in time, whether it be slow or fast in time, when it gets above here, yeah, we're talking about retesting this, and all that type of mumbo jumbo. Crossing it over to the 3-day, and the reason why I'm doing this, and it's whatever time frame works for what I want to have happen. And what I want to have happen is, I've already clarified this as the must hold. So now I need to see or find a time frame where the 18 average is firmly in that area. And right now, this is the case. So when I'm looking to go like a little bit longer, daily to 3-day, something like that, well, now what I'm doing is getting that type of information that I could get when it comes down here. Okay, there's where we can see how it plays, how it reacts to it if and when it goes there. And in a situation where when you look at this just with the limited candles and how the next little bit can play out, if you see this as it stands, we already know it's close to this area. So if it goes in there, oh, it becomes official. And I don't like that word official, because official, it's like, whatever, it's a word. And the reason why in this case is because if this does happen to rally, and let's just assume it closes in here, well, then we'd have that type of period that looks like this, that they say is bullish. And the reason why is because if you were to come down here and then retrace back like that, well, that's just a bullish situation where you're like, okay, maybe all we do is correct a bit like that, or just do it like that, or maybe it just keeps going up. Those are the things that can often happen amongst that situation. You also know for it to be able to not officially, there's that word again, touch that line, then within the next couple of periods, it really has to make higher lows. There's no other choice, or else it will, just based on that fact. I mean, this support has been with this resistance, so first place would be a hit and all that. So it'd have to start some sort of move, but you've already seen that it's had a correctionary move, and that's what I like about using any 18. So if it starts to show some sort of forward momentum with the lack of it having to touch it, well, that's good enough for me to state it's had a correctionary move. And in the spot of getting above this, you want to take it very, very seriously when it breaks out. Now, for something like this to happen, it's a parlay of things to happen. So it has to actually stop going down and start going up, and stop going down at this area, of course, and for you to say that that's going to be the case. And then when it starts going up, it has to go up even higher further to be able to come up to this point. Thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.